Hey everybody, this is Melissa. Here I am with Ted Cruz, who's the Solicitor General of Texas, and we are talking about the 10th Amendment, and sitting next to me is Ed Morrissey of Hot Air. We're going to be asking some questions here about getting ObamaCare neutered, and if it's possible, and how a state would go about doing that. So what do we do to undo this?
I think right now we are facing from Washington the greatest threat to our liberty we've ever seen. I think we have to fight on every front to repeal Obamacare, to defeat it in the courts, and to turn it around and defend our liberty. Now, what does that mean specifically? In the courts, 18 states have filed litigation against Obamacare. Texas is helping lead the fight. Texas Attorney General Greg Abbott is helping lead the fight against Obamacare. They are challenging the method by which it was passed. They are challenging the mandate on individuals. Never before in our country's history has there been a federal government mandate for every individual to purchase a product. That exceeds, in my judgment, the permissible bounds of Congress's authority and represents a dramatic expansion in the federal government's authority.
Well, okay, can I stop you there?
Sure.
Ask a technical question?
Yes.
So when I say something like that to someone, they invoke the Commerce Clause. And what's the response to that?
The Commerce Clause is the vehicle by which the Supreme Court has dramatically expanded the federal government's power. And it's a provision of the Constitution that gives the federal government the authority to regulate interstate commerce between the states. And the U.S. Supreme Court has unfortunately had a series of overbroad decisions that have defined almost everything as commerce. What is distinctive about Obamacare is it's not predicated on commerce at all. Every American is required to go purchase health care, no matter what you do. If you sit in your bedroom, lock the door, and do nothing, you are required to go purchase health care. By definition, if you are sitting in your bedroom with the door locked doing nothing, you are not engaged in interstate commerce. And I think even under the Supreme Court's very generous definition of what constitutes commerce, doing nothing other than simply existing and breathing air, which is all it takes to fall under the ObamaCare requirement, is not engaging in interstate commerce. Beyond that, though, I don't think at the end of the day, as lovers of liberty, we should put all of our faith in the courts. I think it is important that there be litigation battles. I support them. I want them to succeed. But the real way Obamacare is going to be stopped, and the real way the collectivist agenda in Washington is going to be stopped, is individual citizens across this country standing up and fighting for liberty.
Are you suggesting that individual citizens ignore the requirement?
Absolutely not.
Okay, so how do individuals stand up and make their voice heard in a meaningful way?
There are a number of ways. Number one, most directly, we are seeing all across this country a great awakening, something unlike anything we've ever seen in the history of our country, where millions of Americans who've never before been involved in politics are showing up at tea parties, are standing up and realizing that if we don't fight right now today to defend the basic free market principles of our country, we will lose them. The first and most direct thing we can do is in November, go and every politician that voted for Obamacare, vote them out of office. It's the one thing politicians understand, is the power of the ballot box. And even those Democrats in bright blue districts that feel totally safe, as all of us know, Scott Brown just won statewide in Massachusetts. If Ted Kennedy's old Senate seat can go to a Republican, there is no Democrat in the House of Representatives that is safe, and any Democrat who voted for this should be put out of office. Number two, there's something very direct that can be done from all of the states. There's been a lot of discussion about a balanced budget amendment. One of the wonderful things about our Constitution, as all of us know, it begins with the words, "we the people." And ultimately, it's the people that have sovereignty and authority under the Constitution. One of the means of proposing a constitutional amendment is for 2/3 of the state legislatures to propose it, which means every one of us can go to our state legislatures today and demand that they vote in support of a balanced budget amendment. If 2/3 of the state legislatures do that, there's not a single thing Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid can do to stop it. It can come from the states, it can come from the people, and it can constrain the out-of-control spending and explosion of government control from Washington.
Ted, Montana and a couple of other states, I think Virginia may be in there as well, have passed laws that said that they're not going to enforce the individual mandate in Obamacare. This is we've heard people criticizing this as a nullification sort of process. Can you give us a little background on that and why that is or is not a good avenue in fighting the Obamacare mandates?
A number of legislatures have voted to express their strong opposition to Obamacare, to embrace the 10th Amendment and say we as states will fight to the maximum extent possible. I think those movements are good movements and important movements, but I think they're primarily political movements rather than legal movements. And the reason is we live in a country governed by U.S. Supreme Court precedent, and under U.S. Supreme Court precedent, if Congress legislates, a state's ability to directly resist that legislation is limited. And so I think the likelihood of a court challenge based on those state legislatures' votes, the likelihood of that court challenge succeeding is not very high. I nonetheless think they're a terrific development because we live in a democratic republic, and ultimately they're manifestations of the people standing up politically and saying power should stay closest to the people and it shouldn't be central government planners in Washington controlling my relationship with my doctor. And so that is a critically important point of what I think is a great awakening for liberty that is sweeping the nation.
You're Solicitor General of Texas. Tell us what it's going to be like arguing a case about the mandate to this particular Supreme Court panel with people that are on it right now. You know it pretty well. You've been up there quite a bit.
Well, actually, I served as the Solicitor General of Texas.
I'm sorry, you were Solicitor General
for 5.5 years,
right.
From 2003 until 2008. I stepped down about 2 years ago. But I have had the privilege of arguing 8 times before the U.S. Supreme Court. I think there are a number of strong, serious challenges that have been brought to Obamacare, and also, for that matter, the Texas Attorney General is also leading the challenge to the EPA's effort to essentially force cap and trade in through the back door because they don't have the votes in Congress to do it. I think both of those cases raise serious legal issues, and I think there is a real possibility the courts will find portions of both of those efforts from Washington to be contrary to law. It will depend on what particular piece is challenged, but I think there are serious, viable challenges to both. But as I said, as important as that litigation is, it is a mistake to count on the courts to save us from ourselves. Ultimately, the responsibility and the sovereignty and the authority under the Constitution lies in we the people. And the surest and best way to rein in the federal government excess is at the ballot box to vote against every single member of Congress that voted to take away our liberty, and then to support office holders who have a proven record of standing up fighting for liberty. We have to insist as citizens and voters not to accept empty power, not simply to take empty words, but to have leaders who have a real commitment to liberty and a willingness to stand up and fight and a record of doing exactly that. That's how we're going to turn it around and win this fight.
Thank you, sir.